The game of the weekend was absolutely Minnesota at Buffalo. The Vikings beat Buffalo 33-30 in overtime. It was a wild, wild game. And I kind of like calling it a wild game because the Minnesota Wild is a hockey team in Minnesota. Every week, it seems like there's a new game that people call the game of the year. And I think that just really speaks to how chaotic and fun this year has been in the NFL. But also, that might have been the game of the year. Like, this game was insane, this Vikings-Bills game. I'm not even entirely sure where to start. You know, my notes are kind of a mess here. Insanity is what this game was. I think we're going to start with a 2-minute warning and then fill in the gaps from there. The 2-minute warning is where the craziness started. But actually, it is worth saying first, Buffalo had the ball with 10 minutes left, up 27-17. So Buffalo had a 10-point lead with 10 minutes to go, and they had the ball 4th and 2 on the 6-yard line. So they're on the goal line, in field goal range, and they chose not to kick a field goal up 10 points with 10 minutes left. They went for it on 4th down, and Josh Allen threw an interception. And it made me think of that college game from last weekend, Georgia-Tennessee, where in that game, Georgia had a lead, and they showed some restraint. They kicked 2 field goals in a row when they could have been more aggressive. And the Buffalo Bills this year live and die with aggression. Josh Allen takes chances throwing the football downfield. They go for it on 4th down. And in some way, I admire that approach because you take chances, and I personally would rather go down swinging and always trying than just accepting your fate and you know, kind of putting your tail between your legs and walking away. So I like the aggressive nature of Buffalo, but 3 weeks in a row, Josh Allen has had really bad turnovers. And you know, trouble actually started, 3 weeks ago when they beat Green Bay. They won that game against the Packers, but Josh Allen had some bad interceptions. And that second half, because of his interceptions, it allowed Green Bay to kind of hang around. They won the game, but that's where it all began. Last week, Buffalo lost to the Jets, and Josh Allen had 2 bad interceptions. And it was like, oh, this time it finally cost him. And this weekend, he had 3 turnovers. He had 2 interceptions and a fumble. A fumble and an interception in the 4th quarter and another interception in overtime. And I don't want to take away from what Josh Allen did because Josh Allen did some really incredible stuff in this game. And I'll get to that when we talk about that 2-minute warning I mentioned in a second. And so I really hope it's not lost on people how impressive he was. Every time I watch Josh Allen, I go, oh my gosh. But in the last couple weeks, Josh Allen has been making way too many mistakes. And 2 weeks in a row, he's cost his team. And I would rather him make these mistakes now than do them in the playoffs. Like, throw these interceptions, get it out of your system. I'm not worried about Josh Allen. In fact, I think if anything, this is a great opportunity for him to grow as a quarterback, to learn these lessons now and then continue dominating. But it's a problem I didn't realize he still had, right? Like in college, he threw a lot of picks and stuff, but I thought he had grown beyond that. And we're learning, he's struggling in the red zone. Down along the goal line, get inside that 20-yard line. He's thrown a lot of interceptions. And I think it's another part of his game he needs to add to. Long term, if he figures it out, though, it's going to make him a better quarterback. So, the 2-minute warning. The first play after the 2-minute warning. The Vikings had the ball down 23-27. By the way, should have been 24-27, but they missed an extra point. So instead, Minnesota is down 4 points. It's 4th and 18 on their own 27-yard line. They're backed way up in their own territory. But they're desperate. They're down 4. They need a first down. It's a 2-minute warning. They got to go for it. Kirk Cousins throws the ball, and Justin Jefferson makes the best catch I've ever seen in my life. And it's up there with the David Tyree catch in the Super Bowl. Odell Beckham Jr.'s one-handed catch in New York. That was before this catch, it was probably the best catch I've ever seen was that OBJ catch. I also think the Julian Edelman catch in the Super Bowl was pretty impressive. Like, I think it was against Atlanta where he's like diving forward and it's some impressive stuff. But if you haven't seen this Justin Jefferson catch, what have you been doing? Do you live under a rock? Like, I don't know how it's possible you're a football fan who's nerdy enough to listen to this podcast and somehow might have not seen that catch at this point because it's been everywhere. But if you haven't, look up Justin Jefferson catch, and it was like a Madden glitch. It was just like, how did he do that? He throws a hand up in the air, kind of sucks the ball in like a vacuum. It was insane. The catch didn't even really make sense, but it was just part of what made it so impressive was not only if that catch is made in the first quarter of a meaningless game, it's still probably the best catch I've ever seen in my life. But it made it even better that it was 4th and 18, game on the line. That kept the Vikings drive alive, and then they went on to win the game. And so you're like, man, that catch mattered a ton. And I gotta say, this game was such an emotional roller coaster. I mean, the drive went on, and then on 3rd and goal, Kirk Cousins threw a touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. Then it got reviewed and ruled short of the goal line. So suddenly it's 4th down, and they got to go for it. They're down 4 points. So on 4th and goal, Kirk Cousins throws to Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook drops it, and they get stopped. But wait! The roller coaster is going up and down, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then suddenly there's a penalty. And so Minnesota got another opportunity on 4th and goal, and they run a quarterback sneak and got stopped again. And you're like, man, I guess the Vikings just aren't going to win this game. They ran a quarterback sneak, couldn't score. So suddenly Buffalo, this roller coaster, man, up and down and up and down. 44 seconds left. Buffalo has the ball inside their own 1-yard line. So they're way backed up. But they got a 4-point lead. You got to just run a quarterback sneak, get out of the end zone a little bit, give yourself some room. But Josh Allen fumbles the snap. And I was like, I was actually... I was watching my family, and they were kind of talking, and I'm like, is anyone else seeing like what just happened here? Like, this is unbelievable, right? And Minnesota recovers the fumble for a touchdown. So suddenly, Minnesota goes from getting stopped on 4th and goal to having the lead 30-27 inside the 2-minute warning. See what I mean? I cannot imagine how a Vikings fan would have felt watching this game, or even a Bills fan, because you're like, we stopped him. It's 4th and 18. We got him. Then Jeff makes that crazy catch, and you're like, what? And then you stop him on 4th and goal, and you're so excited. Bills fans are like, we won. And then you fumble, and you lost, and you're just up and down. But it continues because Minnesota led 30-27 with 35 seconds left, and Buffalo got the ball on their own 20-yard line with 35 seconds left. And in 33 seconds, Josh Allen drove right down the field, 69 yards, and kicked the game-tying field goal. Well, Josh Allen didn't kick it, but he put him in position to kick it. He also got helped by a controversial catch made by Gabe Davis along the sideline. Probably should have been incomplete, but I just want to say, like, despite the mistakes Josh Allen made in this game, he still played insanely good. 84 yards rushing. He ran for 84 yards. He threw for 330. Put together that 69-yard drive in 33 seconds to tie the game with a field goal. I mean, I think Josh Allen deserves criticism for the way he played against Minnesota. But I don't want it painted as he had a terrible game. He had a great game and made some terrible mistakes, and that is a different thing. He's not a broken quarterback. He's got to learn some lessons. Now, in overtime, Kirk Cousins, I thought, stepped up. He made some really big throws to Justin Jefferson. Minnesota has the ball first. They kick a field goal. And when Buffalo got the ball, Josh Allen made another terrible mistake. He threw an awful interception in the end zone. And so we walk away. First of all, Minnesota, the Vikings are now 8-1. It's an impressive win for them, man. The Vikings are playing a lot of really, really close games, and I would feel better about them if they were blowing teams out, but that feels like a nitpick. And now that they're 8-1, Philly also has a loss after Monday Night Football. So the Vikings have a chance to, finish first in the NFC, and that would be a massive deal to play a bunch of home games in Minnesota on a road to a Super Bowl. And I think that's very, very possible for Minnesota. And I don't want to take anything away from them. Like, it was a crazy game, and they found a way to win in this crazy situation. It's a tough environment. You're on the road at Buffalo, by the way. You're playing a juggernaut of a team, and you won. And the game kind of reminded me of the Minneapolis Miracle. It's one of those moments where, similar to Stephon Diggs running down the sideline, it's a fumbled snap that was just insane and improbable. But still, despite being kind of a weird win, you can't take anything away from them because they went to Buffalo and won. And they found a way. Now, Kevin O'Connell is the head coach of the Vikings. A lot of people are saying he should be coach of the year. My personal vote would be for Mike McDaniel, the coach in Miami, because of the way he's resurrected Tua as well as winning games in Miami. But Kevin O'Connell, it's Mike McDaniel or Kevin O'Connell that's going to be the coach of the year this year. It's whoever has a better second half of the year, I guess. But right now, both of them are playing or coaching their butts off, and both have made a huge, huge difference for their football team. And, this year is going, Minnesota's 8-1. They're winning big games. They are first in the NFC North. This year is going the way things were supposed to go when Kirk Cousins first came to Minnesota. He came from Washington, got a big contract. Expectations were high. You're like, hey, Minnesota has talent. They just need a good quarterback. Well, apparently they needed a good quarterback and a different coach. And so with Kevin O'Connell, Kirk is playing really well, and Minnesota's 8-1. And it's just really cool. And I think a large part of why Minnesota's doing so well, by the way, is the culture that's been cultivated in Minnesota. I have a lot of respect for Mike Zimmer, the former head coach of the Vikings, but he's a gruff guy. He's tough. He's old school. I don't think I would want to play for him because he's not, I don't want to say not friendly, but there's like a layer of, he doesn't relate to his players that well anymore. Not this new era, younger generation of players. And I think he would be a great defensive coordinator. And in fact, he's an incredible defensive mind. But I don't think his mindset works as a head coach in the NFL anymore. I think you need a guy who is a little more go-lucky, a little more positive. Like when Kirk Cousins throws an interception, Kevin O'Connell goes and sits next to Kirk and encourages him rather than just staring at him or scalding him or calling him out in the media. It's a different environment in Minnesota. And that's not only is Kevin O'Connell like calling good plays on offense and doing good stuff, it's the way he treats his players that's making a big difference and getting more out of what he's got in Minnesota. It's worth mentioning, though, from this game, the Justin Jefferson catch is going to get all the attention. And I want it clear, best catch I've ever seen. Not only is it the situation, 4th and 18, game on the line, but I legitimately do not really understand how he caught that. Like, I know, like, I've watched the video a ton of times, but every time I watch it, the less I understand it because I'm like, how? How did he pull that in? Go watch it if you haven't. It's incredible. But I do want to give some credit to Stefon Diggs, and this is going to be forgotten. Stefon Diggs, the Buffalo Bills receiver, had a sick one-handed catch on 3rd and 15. I think that's fun, and there's a cool side story here, which is that Stefon Diggs used to play in Minnesota, and Buffalo traded a first-round pick to get Stefon Diggs. Minnesota used that first-round pick they got from Buffalo to draft Justin Jefferson. So in this game, it's Stefon Diggs playing his former team and playing against the guy who replaced him, Justin Jefferson. Stefon Diggs in this game, 12 catches, 128 yards. That's incredible. And then the star, who is somehow even better, was Justin Jefferson with 10 catches, 193 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know. Like a lot of people want to compare them. I had a great time watching both. They're both incredible receivers, and they both have their own strengths and weaknesses, and they're both so. I mean, like it's crazy if you compare their numbers. They're so parallel in so many ways. I think they have the same number of catches this year. Like it's crazy, and it worked out both. The trade worked out well for both teams, and I don't know who I would rather have. Maybe I'd rather have Justin Jefferson. I don't even know. I don't really know how to answer that. They're different, and they're both incredible, and they both even had an incredible catch in this game. Like it's so weird how many parallels there are between these two receivers and how things have worked out in their time since Justin Jefferson was drafted. Now, both teams had multiple opportunities to win this football game, Buffalo and Minnesota. And they had chances to win, and they missed them, in my opinion. So I don't want to come down hard on Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins, the Vikings quarterback, wasn't amazing here. He had 2 bad interceptions. One went high. One was like, I don't even really understand why he threw the ball. He threw right at a defender. But despite two big mistakes, I thought Kirk played really well. Like he, in overtime, made some really big time throws to Justin Jefferson. And they were throws that gave me confidence that, oh man, you know what, later as the year goes on, because this really was Kirk Cousins in overtime playing great in a big moment, in my opinion. And the knock on Kirk for a long time has been, hey, when the lights shine bright and it's a big moment, he doesn't play very well. And I thought this game was maybe him turning a corner, maybe him winning my respect. I'm not really sure, but I thought he played outstanding in overtime. And it made me go, oh, you know what? As the year goes on, as they go into the playoffs, I think Kirk Cousins can deliver in a big moment. Now, Bills fans, I want to talk to you guys for a second because I just want to encourage Buffalo Bills fans. You don't need to worry about Josh Allen, your quarterback. I think, I'll say this again, I would rather him make mistakes now than later in the year. And these interceptions, 3 weeks in a row now, multiple interceptions in the red zone, it's a good opportunity for him to grow as a quarterback and clean things up. And I think it's actually, if anything, a blessing in disguise. Because like I said, making these mistakes now and learning from them is better than learning these lessons in January in a playoff game. Now, I want to say one more time, I love this game. I actually agree with a lot of people who say it's the game of the year. It was certainly, there's so much going on. It was just, you're like getting whiplash and the up and the down. And I almost wish I was a Bills fan or a Vikings fan so I could experience what it's like to have an emotional investment as well in what's going on. Because I'm a neutral observer. And I was like, like I was having a heart attack. I can't even imagine how it must have felt to like desperately want your team to be the one who came out on top. So it was so fun. Bills Vikings was a totally insane, chaotic game, and I just absolutely loved it.